Hi there, friends. Something funny starts happening to a lot of us somewhere in our 40s and 50s. We just kind of stop caring. Not about everything, not about our kids or our friends or the people we love. We stop caring about what everybody else thinks. We stop caring about being good, and we stop caring about playing along. I see it in my comments all the time now. Women saying things like, I'm alone for the first time in my life and I've never felt more at peace. Or they're saying, I don't want to be a good sport anymore. I'm done. So today I want to talk about why we stopped giving a f*** and why that might actually mean that your body and brain are working exactly the way they're supposed to. This isn't going to be a hormone lecture. I'm not your menopause guru. I'm just a nurse, a woman in midlife, and somebody who has read way too many books and watched way too many videos. But I've come across some research that honestly made me sit back and go, oh, this is by design. No wonder we're all fed up. Let me back up. Most of us were raised to be good. Good daughters, good students, good wives, good employees. We were taught, don't make a scene, don't upset your father, don't embarrass the family, be nice, be polite, and be grateful. And we internalize that so deeply that half the time we don't even know what we want anymore. We know what will make everybody else comfortable, and we know how to smooth things over. We know how to read a room and adjust ourselves to match it. There's a psychologist named Gilligan who studied girls growing up back in the 80s. What she found was pretty fascinating. At around age 9, you ask a boy and a girl what they want, and they both will give you a direct answer. I want this. By age 11, the boy will still say, I want this, but the girl will say, I think I want this. By 13, the boy is still direct, and the girl says, well, what do you want? That makes sense, doesn't it? Somewhere around puberty, a lot of us shift from what do I want to what will keep the peace? How can I be accommodating? What will get me love and acceptance and approval? And it's not just low self-esteem. There's biology involved. Here's the Cliff Notes version of what I've learned. When puberty hits and estrogen comes flooding in, it doesn't just give us a period and boobs and mood swings. It actually changes how our brains work. Estrogen lights up both hemispheres of the brain, the logical side and the emotional, relational side, and it wires them together. So we're not just thinking, does this make sense? We're constantly also thinking, how does everyone else feel about it? Will this upset anybody? Am I still okay in this group if I do this? That cross-wired brain is part of why so many women can read a room faster than anybody. We pick up on subtle shifts in tone and posture, facial expressions. We become world-class peacekeepers and caretakers, and we gain approval for it. We hear, you're so mature, you're so thoughtful, you're such a good helper. Underneath all of that praise is a quieter message. You are lovable when you are easy and of service. So we contort ourselves. We marry people who might not be right for us just to keep the peace. We take on extra work because they really need me and I'm indispensable. We say yes when our whole body is screaming no. I'm guilty of all three of those. We call it being responsible, being selfish, being strong. If you've spent the last 30 years holding everything together for everybody else, I'm talking to you. Okay, now fast forward a few decades. The same hormone, estrogen, that helped us wire into these relational pretzels starts to decline. And this is the part that nobody explained to us. We were told that we'll get hot flashes and we'll gain weight and we might get moody and cranky. But nobody said, oh, by the way, your brain is about to remodel itself again. There's a neuroscientist named Lisa Mosconi who studies the female brain. She says there are 3 big times when the brain rewires itself around hormones. First, there's the teen years. That's when estrogen first comes in. Hello, teenage angst and people pleasing, right? And then there's postpartum after you've had a baby. Have you ever heard of mommy brain? We are in tune to our baby's every signal and need, but we can't find our keys or remember what day it is. And then there's menopause, where estrogen is on the decline. If you're here watching this video, there's a good chance that this is where you are. In menopause, your brain starts pruning away all the little pathways that kept you obsessed with what everybody else thinks. All the circuitry for people pleasing and over-functioning and constantly scanning other people for cues, that starts to fall apart. Meanwhile, other parts of your brain become more efficient and more focused, more you. So when you wake up one day in your 50s and genuinely do not care if your grown child's girlfriend thinks you're too much, or your boss's opinion suddenly doesn't scare you anymore, or you finally say, hello, no, I'm not hosting Thanksgiving this year. That might not be you getting mean and getting cranky. That might be your brain finally doing what it was meant to do. You are literally losing the wiring that kept you on high alert for everybody else's needs. That irritability, that low tolerance for bullshit, that bone deep feeling of, I cannot keep living like this, that's not you failing at aging gracefully. It's your whole system saying the good girl contract has expired. We're done. Now, here's the part that really got me. Anthropologists who study hunter-gatherer societies talk about something called the grandmother hypothesis. In some traditional tribes, like the Hadza tribe in Tanzania, postmenopausal women aren't sidelined, they're actually central. While the strongest hunters went off chasing big game and only came back successful about 3% of the time, the grandmothers were trekking through the forest for hours every single day, usually taking a bunch of the kids with them, and they were digging up tubers and roots and gathering plants and berries, and they were keeping everyone from starving to death in between those big kills that only came every so often. Their job wasn't to quietly sit in the corner and knit. Their job was leadership, survival, and wisdom. So the grandmother hypothesis proposes that human females evolved to live long past their reproductive years because these older females helped their families to survive and reproduce. If you zoom out and look at it that way, menopause starts to look very different. It's not your body breaking down. It's your body saying, we are not making babies anymore, so we're going to allocate that energy to something else. After menopause, if you take care of yourself, you might get back energy that was going into cycling and reproduction. You might get back brain power that was going into worrying about if people liked you. And you might get back time that you spent managing everybody else's emotions. And now the question becomes, what are you going to do with that time and energy? You've seen the memes and the jokes, the We Don't Care Club, the Pamela Anderson no makeup photos, the women on TikTok, and in my comments, and right here, me, talking about how peaceful it is to live alone after age 50. On the surface, it might sound kind of flippant, like, I don't care, I'm done, fuck it. But under that, I think there's something really sacred going on. For decades, we used estrogen-fueled, people-pleasing brains to hold up the world. We raised the kids, cared for the partners, and picked up the slack at work. We volunteered, made the holidays magic, kept the emotional temperature of the entire household regulated. We swallowed our needs to keep everyone else comfortable, right? Women are the unpaid workforce that holds society together. We run the PTA. organize the school fundraisers, coach the teams that nobody else will coach. We staff the nursery at church, teach Sunday school, bring the casseroles, plan the potlucks, chair the committees, and quietly do the behind-the-scenes work that lets everybody else pretend these institutions run on goodwill and magic. Churches, schools, youth programs, charities, neighborhood associations, half of them would collapse tomorrow without the invisible labor of women who show up early, stay late, and do whatever needs to be done. We've been the backbone of every space we've ever walked into, and we did it while apologizing for taking up too much space. And then one day the chemistry changes, the fog lifts, and the wiring shifts, and we start asking questions like, what do I want? What kind of life actually feels like mine? What if I stop being the designated crisis manager for everyone in my life? That's not selfish, that's just called being an adult human. It just feels shocking because we're doing it for the very first time in our 50s. Now, I want to say this clearly. Just because this change is biological doesn't mean it feels good while it's happening. Remodeling is messy. Some people call it the messy middle. If you've ever renovated a kitchen while living in the house, you know what I mean. Dust everywhere, nothing where it belongs, and you can't find a fork when you need one. Menopause can feel like that. Your sleep is off, your mood is all over the place, and you forget words mid-sentence. Your old life doesn't fit anymore, but you're not sure what the new one is. And the world does not make this any easier. Our culture still worships youth and thinness and girl boss productivity. So a lot of women hit this phase and think, I must be broken, must be depressed, I must be failing at handling my responsibilities. What if, instead, you're finally getting honest with yourself? That's how it played out for me. For years, I carried the weight of the world without letting anyone see me struggle. From the outside, it passed for doing well. It was really just survival. People would say things like, I don't know how you do it all. And somewhere deep down, I kept thinking, yeah, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing it all either. When I finally walked away from my corporate career and started saying no to almost everything, it felt like blowing up my life. And in some ways it was, but it also felt like telling the truth for the first time in a really long time. That I don't care energy that shows up in midlife, a lot of the time it's not that we don't care about anything. It's just that we finally start caring about the right things. Our health, our sanity, our peace, work that actually matters to us, and relationships that are mutual instead of one-sided. That shift is uncomfortable. It will cost you some roles and some relationships, but it's not a malfunction. It's biology moving you into a different stage of life. I don't have a course or a universal checklist to share with you that magically fixes everything. Your biology and your life deserve something more personal than that. But I do have a few questions that you can sit with if you're in this stage of life and you're trying to figure out what this all means. Where in your life are you still acting like the 13-year-old girl asking, what are you having? Where are you still basing your choices around keeping the peace? Whose version of good are you still trying to live up to? Your mother's? Your church's? Your ex's? Your bosses? If you believed you were allowed to disappoint people, what would you change? Not in 5 years, now. Where has your body already told the truth? The headaches, the anxiety, the strange symptoms that everybody dismisses, the ones that get you labeled a hypochondriac when you know damn well something's off. Your hormones might be shifting. Your neurochemistry might be rearranging itself, but your inner knowing has been trying to talk to you for a long time. I think we need a different story about this stage of life because the ones that I see most often are getting old, especially from the angry men in my comments. We don't need the cranky old woman who let themselves go line. or the leftovers past their prime nonsense. Those comments usually come from men who still only know how to see women as baby makers and housekeepers. And then when they see women reclaiming their time and their energy and their lives, it rattles them a little. So they fall back on the same old stereotypes and start throwing cat insults. Whatever, dude. We need to write a new story, like women whose brains have finally stopped doing cartwheels to keep everyone happy and are now free to speak their minds. If you feel like you're outgrowing your old life, you probably are. If you feel less tolerant of nonsense, that's not you becoming bitter. That just might be you becoming clear. You are allowed to stop contorting yourself. You are allowed to want more than survival. You are allowed to build a life that fits who you are now, not who you were when you were 25. And if you have quietly joined the I don't care club in your own way, you're in good company. We didn't stop giving a fuck because we got lazy or mean. We stopped because our bodies, our brains, and our spirits are finally aligned enough to say, I care too much about my one wild and precious life to keep wasting it on things that are killing me. And to me, that is the most hopeful thing about getting older. The point is, nothing about this stage of life is a mistake. Your biology changes, your priorities change, and the way you move through the world changes. It isn't a collapse. It isn't a crisis. It's a shift. And once you understand what's happening, you can work with it instead of fighting it. This is your time to build something new, something entirely yours. Thank you for being here, friends. And if you've made it this far, I hope you've liked and subscribed. I will see you in the next video.